you. Dear guests, dear colleagues, students, on behalf of the Faculty of Architecture, in my name, I wish you a good stay here in Ljubljana with nice, let's say, poetic days with snow and frozen windows. Okay, my bridges, it should be better to say our bridges, because bridge design process is very complex, very interdisciplinary job with constructors, civil engineers, landscape architects, and the others. So it's a matter which is close together with many things, with the science on one side and the art on the other. So the architects are usually those ones who combine those two things together to produce some clever things, but at the same time, I say, poetic. It's a very complex job. And how I came to bridges, it's a story. When I work, it used to be, it was once upon a time when I worked with one civil engineer, Łukasz Machansky, on one project, and he did many competition design projects for bridges, and he asked me for some sketches because it was not time for the renderings, and I did it, and I added to those sketches something there and here, and suddenly it seems to be that it is useful for him because we won those competitions, and step by step our collaboration became deeper and let's say more tense, and then I work with the other constructors and the result of that collaboration was that we organized 20 years ago a conference here in Slovenia, international conference, on the name the design of the motorway like a culture challenge. That means that if you are designing something very technical, it shouldn't be just a technical, but it should be also, I said, piece of art. And from that time, on that our conference, we produced some kind of statement, manifesto, and from that time, it was in our law in Slovenia that for every bridge, important bridge, or on a motorway or on the rivers, should be organized competition with architects, constructors, and landscape architects. This was the reason that in Slovenia we have now a few or some of the groups, interdisciplinary groups, which are able to win on a very, let's say, important, even important international competition on a bridge design. So that's a story about the bridges. Now let's go very quick to the bridges, what bridge means. I think that architects, we have two important tools in our hand, like a wizard. We have wall, with the wall we should separate things, and we have a bridge. Can you imagine, you can connect it to things which were never connected before. It's a wizard. So, and the other thing is that what we are doing, architects, it's quite visible. You shouldn't describe through the books. You can see what's going on. If I said the product of our work is, it has truth. And this truth is the same what we are searching, scientists and architects and artists. That kind of truth. So the bridge, it's a miracle, I said. It's a, how to say, symbol of freedom. You should go from here, which is known area, to somewhere which is unknown. And that's I think, is a challenge. On the other hand, with the bridge, it's not important for the bridge, I think, just a span. How long is it? Because it's not sport activity. Because some important bridges should connect it even states, or I don't know. But the big one, I don't know where is it. But with the big one, like this Normandy bridge, you should connect with just one island. But with small one, continents. So it's much more important how clever, how important are they, like a site, like a function, or how they are important like a, let's say, clever idea. It depends from the context. If you count in your mind the content. The bridge, you know, from the Japanese or Chinese art of bridges, it's a, I said again, miracle. To stand on the top of that bridge, in between the sky and the earth, in the night, let's say, when the stars are mirroring and you have a feeling that you are in a space. It's a quite exciting thing. And the bridge is one side you should rubbering from the river to give it to the citizens. So Palladio did the same in Bassano del Grappa with his bridge. It's a new public space in the town which doesn't have too many or a lot of, let's say, planned area. Or the bridge is therefore inspiration for artists. Many words are connected with the bridges, bridge, bridging, and so on. In many languages, I think the same. We are talking about to create a bridge between nations and so on. But at the same time, when you are connected things, you should disconnect it. To destroy the bridge, let's say in a monster, it doesn't matter of tragedy. It was necessary for the war, but it was an act, symbolical act, to disconnect it, the joint between two nations, cultures. And the bridge has a great impact to the development of architecture. Let's imagine the Romans, viaducts and bridges. They invent art because they needed. All the roads has to go to Rome, so it's very short. So therefore they had to jump over the rivers. And then you can imagine how this construction, how it influenced on the architecture. Just to circle it, and you can get, let's say, Colosseum. or the opposite, the first iron bridge in Britain, influence on the development of the architecture in steel. Because architecture is searching all the time about how to reduce the distance between outside and inside, interior and one outside space. And with the using of iron, you should do it. Or Eiffel, engineer Eiffel, he was genius constructor of bridges. Can you see here on the picture the arch and column? He used it for the tower in Paris. It was not something special for him. It was just like a child play. Legrand. For me, the exciting thing for the future is how to use the bridges in a multi-purpose way. Because if you imagine what is bridge, it should be arch or it should be a beam, let's say beam. You need a solid beam, but this beam weight, and usually that weight which we use it, like pedestrians or like for the traffic, it's minimal to the weight of the beam. So, but you can expand this beam on a three-dimensional side, like polyester, and therefore you can use the same material for the beam for the space construction. So in former days they use that kind of possibility for the bridges. And Zaha Hadid, we know, she did the same idea. This is what I'm still waiting in my life to do it. So when I'm coming to our bridges, I said, what is architect in that job? I think it's a good for discussion with the constructors, because our point of view is much wider. So we can, let's say, understand how this bridge should function in a site, what is important for him, what kind of message it has, what kind of, and so on. So, how it should like on the side, what it should be his expression. So, usually architects, we have our knowledge in our unconsciousness. So, we started not in a very rational way, but to listen our inside landscape. And how to express it, usually with drawings. Sometimes we don't know what we are drawing, because we ask ourselves, oh my God, look my hand, what is drawing? Because it's coming from out inner side. So we started with some sketches, which are much more complex, like one-way thinking, And we started with the bridges on my way, with the consciousness that the bridge is not just a construction. I was pushed in some way with one article of Janez Kožel 25 years ago in our architecture magazine, when he wrote that the bridge without architecture is a, let's say, lost challenge. And so we started, I'm going further here, with one bridge in near to the old castle, it was time of postmodern. It used to be the former bridge here, but it was very narrow and they had to change it, replace it. And it was a time of postmodern. And that time, for me, it was important because it discovered the importance of a public place. And the bridge is a public place. It's in some way you can see on the bridges of Plečnik. It's some kind of public stage for many kind of stories. And so we started with that bridge. We had to keep some former elements, historian elements, like a chapel and fence and so on. But we started with some motif. It was in a suburb of Ljubljana, in one satellite town, with the flat blocks, quite unpleasant and opinion of people. And we said, if we will build that bridge with a bigger effort, then somebody should come here and say, oh, there is a castle in ruins, and we should do something, because now this castle have a new shoes. And it was happening. So the vision was how to redevelop, how to re-urbanize that kind of, this part of the town, how to motivate people to make them courage to transfer that side from the, let's say, more cultured part of Ljubljana. It was happening. It's a long story, I'm going just through. So the former bridge was very short, very narrow. So we added new element of that columns, which are lamps, and we produced some kind of vision of two walls. So the driver has to stop unconsciously. There's speed, and at the same time we also now I don't know, the marker doesn't work. Yeah. So, and we did chapel on it and so on and so on. It was I was studied there architectural knowledge of Gordon Cullen, townscape, and I did it by him, some elements, like elements on a long distance in between element makes us that way a little shorter, because we should divide it that way to here and there, and to say where we should meet each other after or behind it, huh? And so on and so on. So it's a story. I'm not going to talking too much about that. The other bridge is a bridge maker's bridge in Ljubljana. It has to be pedestrian, but then was in a turn one mayor who wanted that it has to be really like a motorway bridge here, but the people were against that. They push on, they throw on me potatoes and so on. Right? So I had to find solution to produce a bridge which is for the traffic, but at the same time it looks like pedestrian bridge. The fact is that this area was for the bricks factories, so therefore it's brick makes bridge, the name. I put the capital of the bridge on both sides and with the lamps which land to the wall, not to blind us to see the stars in the evening. If you are, let's say, in love, it's not very nice, it's something disruptive when you're walking along the river. So many stories are here. I don't have time to say that, but it looks now more like pedestrian bridge, like the bridge for the traffic. Another story is one boulevard with the bridge. The boulevard we designed it like a story, linear story of the sequences. You are jumping from one sequence to another one, and even this distance of the boulevard in the suburb of Ljubljana is about 2.5 kilometers long. It's not seems to you such long because of that intention of the stories. And one of the stories was that bridge, which is very low to the river and up to the nearest park. So it was a question how to design now the bridge. Usually constructors will need it one beam with 3 meters but we decided to create an arch to open the window along the river, and it was a special construction because we have 2 decks on both sides connected in the middle, and to create an arch. It was a little bit more expensive, and so I'm going further. The first suspension bridge, the story was how to create possibility that we have a path from the town along the river and not to disconnect it with the bridge construction, which used to be at the beginning 3 meters tall. So how to create some construction with a very thin deck. With a 1 column, it was not possible. With a 2, not possible. With 3 columns, we reduced from 3 meters to 38 centimeters. So it's some engineers usually say, "Oh, it's crazy on such a small river to make a canyon bridge," but it was a problem. It was a context. And for today, it's nice because it's a kind of icon. You can place yourself on your travel through the around Ljubljana where you are. On an ancient town, Ptuj, it was one workshop, international students' workshops, and they discovered that all the paths from the old town coming to one point on the river, and there were nothing. So why not? Because it used to be a bridge in the forward days there. So we decided to build a bridge, and we did it in a way how to make some echo on a former bridge with a light construction, which is steel construction, and again the lamps not to blind us. And then it was competition for the new bridge. This is our up part. Again, it was competition, and we needed a big span and not to go to up because was a castle. So we proposed some kind of cantilever bridge, which is not suspended bridge, but cantilever with a springs. And so we got some kind of solution. With remembering on the Karl Bridge in Prague. Why? Because this bridge is nearly 1 kilometer long. It should be quite boring to cross over the bridge, and so we decided to how to say, repeated those constructions and to creating some kind of rooms, some open spaces like key sequences. And therefore, this bridge is today very useful for the pedestrians, for the bikers, and so on. It's a kind of, let's say, park on a river. Another bridge, I'm going very fast. Again, we had to replace the old bridge, which was in arch construction, in concrete, so we replace it in steel. It's a gay story, but I think... Okay. Again, story. And maybe for me, the best bridge of mine, it was one research in Ljubljana, where and how to place bridges in Ljubljana. We were asked to do that, and I suggested the bridge like that, in the bank of the Plečnik. So, but after that it was competition, and those who were involved in that research shouldn't go to the competition. So, but it was a shame for me, and I did it. That after that, in another town, near to Bled. It's again one invention. If you take some strip and press it, then you can get a force in the middle. So therefore the middle should be very thin, and the bridge is about nearly 90 meters long in span, but on the middle is just 30 centimeters thin. So it's a... And let's say the most important bridge is bridge in Belgrade. It was international competition because Belgrade won a new bridge which should stand between the old town and the new town, which were far away because all the other connections are, let's say, on a longer distance. So they needed something in between, but in a way of symbol, which should connect it both sides on a common identity. So we started with the idea that the bridge should be icon and also promoter of the, let's say, potential of the town, like Bilbao. So it was competition. And we won with the idea which was for us a little bit ecological too, sustainable. So we said not to step on the water, but if we have the island, we should stand with only one step on the tip of that island and then cross over. The bridge has a span of 1 kilometer. And it has to be, let's say, a landmark in a town at the same time. And it should produce a feeling to be in cathedral if you are on a bridge. So this long distance shouldn't be in your feeling anymore so far, so long, because you should be on the side or in some space. And it was happening. So that's some analysis how we did it. The bridge, there are many bridges like that. Yeah, there are many bridges in the world, but it was a question how to find now something, some solution for the calm and so on, which should be unique. And we did it like a coin, perfect coin, because in a cross section you can see there are two strips for the train, and then 6 strips for the traffic and pedestrians, and we turn it in a circle. So you see, we are working all the time with the models. You see the cross section, it's quite elegant. Happy architect. Fundament was 55 meter wide and 50 meters deep. So you can imagine for the football place. So it looks now. No? Another bridge, but without discussion, another international competition. The competition for the Archer Bridge. Another competition in Maribor, because I had to tell you. This is maybe interesting one, bridge for pedestrian in Ljubljana, or the one part of the town, and it was memory on how my mother dried the approach. So it was the same. I hope once should be done. And we won one competition just a few months ago. We had to replace the fish bridge here in Ljubljana. Our idea was to create as thin as possible construction, and I think it should be successful. It's like Ferrari, very thin, very elegant. Then another bridge in Switzerland. I'm going to just few images. And the last competition we won in Poland, in Gdańsk. It was nearly 100 competitors. So remember the cranes here. And still, okay, thank you.